Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, and here joining me for the first time, though he provides kind of, in a way, a whole lot of background support for the episode, it is Dan Turk, who actually runs PR for several smart home brands at Max Borges Agency. Thank you, Dan, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Yeah, obviously a long-time watcher, listener, and provider of support, I guess, but I'm so excited to be on today. This is great.
I know. We've had a lot of people from brands come on. We've had other kind of analysts come on, but we've never had kind of the middle ground. You're the pipeline that kind of feeds the news that we're able to cover on this show. So it's kind of interesting thing, and we're going to talk more about the PR stuff in the latter half of this episode. But before we get into all of the inner workings of PR and smart home brands, we got some news to cover today. Let's go ahead and start off with, we have talked about them a few different times already, just heading into next year, and now the brand itself is just playing into all of it. Sonos is basically just continuing to tease more products for next year, and they literally launched a website that says you can listen from the source, hear from the source, basically saying there's a lot of rumors going around. I don't know what it could be, and just putting up this hype page about all of their stuff. So just as a refresher for anyone who does know, like Sonos has got a lot of stuff for next year. Like they're supposed to be developing maybe like a set-top box, that's similar to like Apple TV, but running some sort of Sonos OS. We've got new set of like over-the-ear headphones that are supposed to be coming out. So that's a major new category for Sonos, and just general new speakers. So this is going to be interesting, but it's funny just to hear Sonos just kind of playing into all this stuff. What do you make of all this, Dan?
On the PR side, I've been hearing about this for more than 2 years already. I mean, they were reaching out to agencies also, right, to help them with this years ago, and it was so hush-hush and secretive, and I don't know if COVID kind of got in the way of their plans or if maybe they had to delay them for other reasons, but I'd say it's about time they lean into it. I'm happy they're kind of addressing the rumors in their own Sonos kind of way. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in 24.
I mean, let's be honest. Sonos has had a terrible track record, and honestly, for us covering it a lot of times, it's a little bit of a bummer because it'll be like right before a product launch, and then the entire details of everything will be spilled. And then
you never know if it's on purpose or not, right?
Yeah, you never know. And then that just leaves us like, well, I guess we're just like, picking up scraps at that point in terms of what we're going to cover because the whole product has been revealed. In a nice flow, something like that would be they would keep everything under wraps. We of course cover the leaks too when they happen, but it's more fun, and I think you get a bigger impact when everything kind of But
it's not just
Sonos has been
that's a lot true. Of these,
but theirs
these
has
big
been
brands,
Theirs has been pretty notorious, like literally every detail of like what was it, the Move 2 came out ahead of time.
It was all out,
yeah, it is what it is.
Somehow these headphones though have we've just scratched the surface for like 2 years on rumors or something like that, and beyond knowing that they're working on that, we don't actually know what is so special about them, why they think they can penetrate such a crazy saturated market. Obviously they have
this
reason,
is true,
right?
They must be thinking they can do something different, and it'll be interesting if they're able to. So I'm pretty hyped for it. I'm excited.
Ditto.
So we'll see how long this actually takes to finally be released. But it sounds like 2024 is going to be a busy year.
The website's live. At least we got that.
Yeah, we got that done, taken care of. Next up in our news coverage here, we have Apple. Apple made this by the skin of their teeth. They actually pulled it off of announcing, revealing, whatever you want to call it, the first few vehicles to take advantage of their new next generation CarPlay before the end of 2023. They said it was coming, and I guess technically they made it, though I'm sure no one or very few people from our audience are going to be like jumping on these because of course the first two vehicles to do this aren't some mass market vehicles. It's like next gen versions of Porsche and Aston Martin are the
Yeah,
first two to
like
support
unless you live
CarPlay.
in Miami. I don't know if this is relevant to you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the market for a new Porsche or a new Aston Martin. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wait for maybe the next wave of vehicles to support it. But they did a whole piece with Cool Hunting on Porsche and Aston Martin and their new interfaces, how they worked with the brands to design this. And I've got to say, these look really freaking good. Like
Yeah,
it's
I've been
so
pumped
cool to
ever
see
since
how
they
they
first
customize
announced
them.
it. Yeah, like a couple years ago when they first started talking about this, CarPlay wasn't getting a ton of love, right? It was like a little bit of uh, updates here and there with the cycle of all the other Apple updates, operating system updates, and the fact that they're really going all in on this and they're keeping their promise kind of by announcing this at the end of 2023 like this. It's exciting. This is like the future of the car for sure.
Absolutely. The thing that irks me a little bit though is that so part of the big play with next gen CarPlay is building in your car's information into the CarPlay interface. You're going to have customizable dials. It's going to be across every screen in the car. You know, the ones that kind of go right in front of the passenger seat or on top, because everything is multiple screens now. All of that stuff is going to be skinned with CarPlay. It's going to have your car's heating and cooling, your windshield wipers, like whatever. All of your car's features can be built all solely into CarPlay, which is great. But there's also other features that feel like they could have given them to the rest of us. Like we've got things like fancy new widgets for weather that just like display on half the screen and show like the full weather app, but in a CarPlay interface. Um, there's also I don't know, like they do have like the ones for like home and air quality and stuff are shown up there. I feel like we could have gotten a little like just a couple of these features on the existing CarPlay without having to buy an entirely new vehicle. This still could be a year or several years away for most people. So I don't know. I wish we saw some of these features in our existing cars.
Yeah, kind of just like to hold people over until their next car or until they want to make that investment. But even more than that, until more than just a Porsche and an Aston Martin are available, right? How do we get this
Yeah,
into to everyone's hands? Those little small things but meaningful things that can really make a difference in people's car experiences.
you know what cars we're not going to see it on though? GM cars.
Oh God, here we go.
they I can't help it. Um, I don't know if you like. Obviously, you saw we saw the show notes, but I don't know if you had seen this stuff earlier in the week.
Yeah.
But the first reviews of the Chevy Blazer EV came out, and there's
Mm.
like whole sections just tearing into their UI. And I tweeted like my favorite part from the Edmunds review that said, and then the infotainment system display completely melted down, stuck in an infinite loop of shutting off, turning on, displaying a map centered in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and turning back off again. And I love that this is coming out in the reviews right after, literally the week after their infotainment executive bragged about how theirs was so much safer than CarPlay. And like, can you imagine that happening while you're driving one
I,
of these vehicles?
it's I feel like we've been here and done this before with car manufacturers, right? Like trying not to get on board with CarPlay and then eventually, you know, just giving in and adding it. I feel like we've been there and done that before. And the other side of it is, there's been rumors forever that Apple's making a car. You know, let's keep those rumors going because I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Because Apple knows they're not in the car business. They don't have that expertise. They never have. Maybe it'll happen one day, but they leave the car making to car makers. I think that these car manufacturers should also be thinking the exact same way, but on the other end, leave the software development to the software developers and the experienced developers like Apple who know how to reach customers, know what their customers want, and I mean it's just so obvious. iPhone's incredible. Why not extend that to your phone and make it a part of that car experience? Why try to replace it with something that's not as uh, great from a quality perspective, not as loved from a a customer perspective. It's just you're asking for reverse satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. And like I just sit here and think like, okay, sure, you're not going to be able to sell nearly as much data. Or maybe you're going to have to get creative in
Yeah,
how you collect that data. You can still sell it, just get different how you collect it. Um, but like I'm I know I'm more of an Apple fan than most, but we've seen the stats. We've seen the polls that say how CarPlay or Android Auto is like tops of the list for someone picking out a new vehicle. And they're shifting away from it. And I can't help but think how much like I would go to many cars if they were one of the first ones to support like this next gen CarPlay. Like it looks so cool, and you're gonna get in there and you have an entirely customizable vehicle with colors and UIs, all this stuff, and it's all pulling from your phone. Like that is so cool to me, and yet it's slow for people to take on, and then you got people like GM that are actively pushing it away. It seems dumb. It seems like
you know
this
what it
would be a big
reminds me
selling
of,
point.
Andrew? Remember when Apple Pay first was hit in stores, and there was all that drama? Was it Walmart that or Target or something? There was a bunch of them that just did not want to adopt the standard at all. And
Yeah,
I don't know if they ever did in the end, but it
Walmart
really
still
looked
does not.
bad. Oh, they still don't. Okay. Well, it looked terrible, and it was just such an easy experience, and the experience has gotten even easier over time as Apple Pay has gotten better. Um, Really, mobile payments in general has gotten better over time, and it's just hindsight's 2020, but it sounds like dying on that hill for some of these big corporations wasn't the right move from a customer perspective, but from a brand and a PR perspective either. It's not something I would necessarily recommend.
You're like, thank goodness I don't work for GM's PR team
Well, I'm not going to
at the
say that
moment.
because if they need some help, I'm always available. But yeah, it's definitely not the strategic advice you'd be hearing from Max Borges' agency.
I also randomly got a DM after last week's episode of somebody who works for keeping things vague. They work for one of the big three CarPlay manufacturers, and they basically said how like all of the employees internally are talking about this and have no idea why they think this is a good idea from GM. Like I think it's funny that literally the employees are now reaching out and be like, I have uh no idea why this is a good idea. And literally, as we're recording 1 second ago, he just messaged me again, and he's like, "Take a look at the R General Motors subreddit. It definitely goes into how much of a mess they are internally." So I don't know. This is just—it's fun, just kind of watching a
Yeah,
fire at this point.
yeah. Let's see how it plays out. I just think reversing course will probably be in everyone's best interest, but we'll see how long that takes, if at all.
I don't know. They seem to really like digging that hole at the moment. So yeah, it's just a matter of time, and who knows how much it's going to make an impact on sales, because people will say like these are demanded features, but when it comes down to it, a lot of people either don't have a ton of options when it comes to cars, like what they want to go with, or maybe they're just brand loyal, like, hey, my number one feature is CarPlay, but also I'm a Chevy guy and I'm just always going to
Yeah,
buy a Chevy. Like what's going to top your
which
brand
loyalty will
loyalty?
win out? I wonder what the aftermarket for the original CarPlay, or CarPlay as it is for most other than the Aston Martin and Porsches of the world right now. That's a pretty big market, and there's some great brands that are helping facilitate that aftermarket experience for cars that don't come natively with CarPlay. Do we know what that experience could be like, if at all, with this new version of CarPlay that's a little bit more in depth? It's across multiple screens and really baked into the experience of the car beyond just the infotainment center.
I was very curious about that because I know we see a ton from, whether it's like standalone units that are like the ones like from
Yeah.
Car and Driver that we'd reviewed on our
Mm-hmm.
channel that like sit atop and run wireless CarPlay, or the ones that are like fully integrated like Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much you can, like, how much of that new CarPlay experience you can put on there. Um, I don't know.
That'll be
I'm
interesting.
very interested. I mean, you may not have access to all of the information or all of the screens in the car, but if you could at least run the next gen version and pull in things like
Get the
the
weather
widgets
widget.
and all of that,
Yeah.
exactly, it'd be, at least something. Well, moving on through all the GM CarPlay fun stuff. let's go ahead and talk about a couple new lights from Aqara. So these are launching for China here initially, so not much for stateside users, but there are 3 new ceiling lights. There are 2 just circle round lights in 2 different sizes, as well as a large rectangular light. These can basically flush mount onto the ceiling of whatever room in your house and controllable through Apple Home and all that stuff. What I do like about these a lot, they look like they'd be really nice, like bathroom lights, like especially the
Yeah,
large
like a
rectangular
fixture.
one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really like those, but for trying, there's not that many like ceiling lights. I know Nanoleaf has some. There's a couple out there, but
I
there's
think
not
we're
a
going to start
ton.
seeing that a little bit more now. Just based off of some conversations I'm having on my end in the smart home space, uh, the market for like bulbs and smart switches or anything like that, like it's developed, it's mature, and so the next logical step is to start making smart fixtures that are a little bit more decor focused or serve a purpose beyond just the bulb itself, but the fixture itself. And I know maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I'm working with a brand that's going to be at CES that's going to have a really cool light fixture that's smart as well, with several other smart features that you wouldn't think belong in a light fixture either. So I'm talking speakers, I'm talking maybe a projector. Who knows? We'll see that in a month or two. But this thing it's going to be really cool. And the point I'm trying to make is we're breaching that point in the smart home now, where we're getting away from just like your standard bulbs and going a little bit more focused into units or larger multi-purpose devices that serve many different functions.
In a little way, it makes me nervous from a reviewer standpoint because like it's easy to test bulbs and light
Yeah.
strips, right? And easy to swap them out, and then they're something I can kind of run through. But something like these, installable fixtures, there's so many ones from like Philips Hue that look crazy cool, but there's like, okay, we're replacing wall sconces and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff that gets so much more involved. So it not only adds time to do reviews, it also just gets so much more burdensome. So
It's a
I'm
real
a little
challenge.
intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. From the PR side, it's something that we're constantly trying to figure out. A few other categories like that are, blinds or in wall or in ceiling speakers, things that require installation. Even smart doorbells and thermostats, right? They're mostly like easy for a lot of people if you're handy or whatnot, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do if you're not handy, if you have no experience, if you're nervous about that type of stuff. So if you're, your average consumer, it might not be something that they're into. For a reviewer, maybe a little bit different. But yeah, the second you have to break out the ladder, the screwdriver, I don't know. I'm thankful that pictures cover the mess behind the picture frame, because I'm terrible at that type of stuff. So in my house, if you ever come over, never look behind the picture frames, because it's a mess for sure. But yeah,
They're just
like,
holes in the wall of failed
oh my gosh,
installations.
it's terrible. It's embarrassing actually how non-handy I am when it comes to the non-technical things. But the doorbells and whatnot, I don't know. I had no problem installing that. The Eve outdoor camera, that was also interesting, right? Because it's not an easy installation. You need a specific type of like junction box there to get that going, and that's the same thing with a lot of those floodlights and whatnot. So it's challenging to work with reviewers to make sure that they can review a product at the same way a consumer experiences it, but also provide them with the tools and instructions, or even sometimes help from the outside, from a third party, to get that process rolling.
Absolutely. Well, since you had mentioned Eve, I guess we can round out our news with several new products from Eve. So, one of the things that I'm curious about, and I know you'll be able to speak to this, but I am curious why these were announced prior to CES. Like, I feel like it's right before the holidays. Things are like there's already so much news going on, right? You had Apple Watch bans happening, that are already in effect. Maybe they'll be. Who knows what's going to be like by the time this episode airs, but as we're recording, you can no longer buy an Apple Watch online from Apple unless you want the Apple Watch SE. But there's so much news. There's holiday stuff going on. And then Eve is like, hey, by the way, we've got several new Matter products. And I'm curious at why they got, obviously, I'm sure that it'll still be trying to be in the CES news cycle, but why these weren't announced more at CES. But the products that they announced was technically 3 with like an asterisk there. So first is they have new versions of the Eve motion blinds, and these are now ones that from my understanding, the ones that they're doing. So it's like the Eve blinds collection, so curated selection, made to measure, smart blinds, built on the motion blinds tech. There's a new version of the light switch, so Thread, Matter enabled, but it won't require a software update to work with Matter. It's just Matter out of the box on store shelves to work with all the platforms. And then the third wholly new product is the new in-wall outlet. So 2 outlets, both independently addressable, works with Matter, I believe, and all of that stuff. So 3 kind of new products here from Eve. But yeah, so tell me more about this stuff.
All right, so the products I'll get into in a second, but just to address your first question, I think that digs into a little bit about PR strategy and what we do beyond just sharing news with you guys. It was a lot of back and forth trying to decide when we should announce this news. There's more factors than just PR and CES, right? Is the product ready? Is the market ready for it? Do we have certification for Matter? Do we have inventory ready to go? All those things kind of come into play. We kind of check all the boxes, and we were ready to go before CES. And one of the strategies we thought would work here is CES is so noisy, and it's for a good reason, right? There's so much happening there, so much great news. But if you don't have something that is a robot that's going to roll on Mars or something, it's hard to stand out. And we love our announcements, but we also want to make sure that we're standing out in the crowd. And we figured, hey, if everyone else is waiting for CES, maybe there's a place for us to kind of announce here. Now, nobody knew, because it was very much under embargo and tight-lipped. And you kind of buried the lead there that Apple was going to announce this crazy stoppage in Apple Watch sales for their latest generations of, what is it, Ultra 2 and Series 9?
Yep.
Yeah, so no one saw that coming from our standpoint. And we're usually pretty good at avoiding Apple news when it's historically at a time when they do something, right? Like the September timeframe for iPhone launches, or the springtime for iPad and sometimes Mac and the stuff that they do there. Dub we try to avoid unless we're directly involved in a HomeKit way. Not just Eve. I'm just talking about clients in general and brands that we work with. But this was a great opportunity for us to do that same thing, like the same way we would avoid Dub when Apple's making big announcements. We wanted to avoid the CES news. We'll have a couple people there talking about it. We're not actually going to be demoing anything at CES this year, and that was another big reason why we wanted to kind of separate ourselves from there. When you have an announcement but you're not present in a demonstration way at the show, it's a lot harder to stand out as well. So we were ready to go, and we wanted to make sure that this news hit the shelves, I guess, or the news wire, or the podcasts, the news cycle before everyone went out for the holidays. And now we'll have some extra touch points to add in early 2024. All right,
Nice.
About the products themselves, though, you were spot on. Some of these are great new ways to purchase products that we already have and are improving. Right, the Eve motion blinds, the Eve blinds collection, for example, has a really great feature that I don't think has been talked about enough in terms of adaptive shading. It's kind of one of the coolest features I work with in any product I touch. It uses precise location from your iPhone or from your home hub, and is able to determine when your blinds should move throughout the day to adjust lighting in your house. It's similar to the adaptive lighting feature that HomeKit has, but it's for blinds. And so that's a really cool feature that I think we'll start talking about a little bit more and people will start experiencing more. And the best part here is, we love our partners, Coolies, who have been helping us with blinds for the last couple of years and helping us distribute them all over the world. And we're going to continue doing that to make sure that everyone has access to them. But if you're in the US or Germany and you want to access, or Canada, I should say, and you want to get access to some blinds as well, and you already are an Eve customer, or you like the Eve experience that you've had in the past, you can just go to evehome.com and purchase from right from there. So that's a really easy experience for a lot of people. The Eve light switch, we came out, I think, just several months ago with that Thread Gen 3 version. And by the way, if you bought that, you can still upgrade to Matter over the air. That's going to happen in the next couple of months as the new out of the box Matter version comes out. But this is the same product essentially, except it's out of the box Matter, like you mentioned. Excuse me, and it's a great product. People love it. Look out more for more fun light switch stuff in the future from Eve. I know we talked earlier this year after the acquisition that maybe things will slow down innovation wise, but I don't think that's happened. It's really been a fun second half of 2023 for Eve, so there's a lot of good stuff happening there. And then speaking of innovation, the kind of the creme de la creme of the three announcements, I guess, is this new Eve energy outlet. We know everyone loves Eve Energy. It's one of our most popular products globally, not just in the U.S. And one of the features that people specifically love and have been really utilizing over the last year or two as energy prices have skyrocketed around the world is energy monitoring. And we wanted to make that more accessible for people, not just in a a plug and play type of way, but in a more permanent solution like energy outlets, power outlets. And so that's kind of where Energy Outlet comes into play, the Energy Outlet, and we're really excited about it. It's also pretty cost effective. You're getting essentially two Eve energies, right? Two smart plugs for $49, and that's just a really great price point for something that kind of can be in the background of your home. It's not so chunky and intrusive. It kind of just sits there and is part of your home, and you can use it when you need it, and when you don't, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I still don't, that blows my mind, that Eve does not have is a video doorbell. I feel like it is arguably one of the highest, consumer interest smart home categories. Um, and you've got everyone else kind of playing in the space, and there's Eve, who's got, cameras and all this other stuff, and they don't have a video doorbell. And I'm just saying, where is it? Where is
Stay
it?
tuned. I mean, I don't have any exact info on a doorbell, but I know that if there's one thing you can trust Eve about, it's that they are very forward looking, right? If you bought a product in 2020 from Eve, you can still upgrade that product to Matter now. There isn't another brand in the smart home space that did that. They didn't future proof their products with enough storage capacity on board to make that firmware update possible. Eve very much thinks ahead. And I can tell you with certainty that some of the products that you might already have from Eve can contribute to a doorbell experience in the future based off of the components that are included in those products. I can't go into any more details there, but we're not far off. It'll happen. I think like Apple takes time to get things right and doesn't really launch when the rest of the market launches, but launches when they have an experience that's superior and customers will like. I think Eve kind of follows in Apple's footsteps that way. And I'm excited because I kind of have a sneak peek into what that looks like, and I can't wait to be able to come back on the show and share it when that is ready in the future.
I am very excited so right now I'm really loving the Ecobee video doorbell. It works
Looks
really
amazing.
well, super fast,
Yeah.
looks amazing, and I love the way that it ties into the other products. I mean, right now there's like bar none, no better smart thermostat that you can get for your home. And the way they've added literally like the smart speaker functionality with Apple Assistant in there, see your
The home
doorbell
security
on
features,
there, the
the
home
trackpad, and
security
everything,
stuff.
so cool.
Yeah, and they do things that I'm not seeing in almost any other products, like where they're able to when they detect something, they zoom in the camera onto that, and you see that in like your HomeKit secure video feed. Like
Yeah.
that is awesome. But my downside right now is that, and this is on the HomeKit side of things, is like we got those activity notifications. We talked about them on the show, and the problem is you can't filter those other than based on time of day or whether or not you're home. And I want to be able to get those notifications only when a person is seen. But because their doorbell does not support HSV, you can't filter notifications because if it had HomeKit Secure Video, you could record a clip when a person or a package or an animal or a car is detected, only those things. And then you can get a notification only when a clip is recorded. So effectively filtering your notifications by those four criteria. But without HSV, you get any movement becomes an activity notification. And it is tiresome. And it almost like never goes away from our TV. So we had to turn it off for the time being until I'm either going to have to switch the doorbell or Ecobee. I just won't be able to have that feature on my TV, which is a bummer. So
So
I'm excited to see if they do something different to fix some of these things that Apple hasn't done.
yeah, you're whether you know it or not, you're getting into some of the reasons why a doorbell from Eve and some other companies maybe haven't come to fruition, right? Eve is very focused on HomeKit secure video and what that experience is like, and uh, you know, in their DNA, Eve has always been very focused on HomeKit. Obviously, we've expanded with Matter in the past, but that's because Matter has a lot of the architecture and foundational security and privacy features that HomeKit offered. So I can't get into it too much, but you're touching on why some of these innovations haven't been announced or released yet, and maybe there will be some feature updates or abilities to do something different in the near future that I think will make your experience with Ecobee, but some other brands as well, a lot better and more in tune or in line with what your expectations are. But just to
Cool.
be clear, Ecobee is awesome. I'm Canadian. They're Canadian. I have a lot of respect for them and everything they've developed over the last 10 plus years. They also are another brand that has been acquired in recent years by a large energy company, and they have not stopped innovating. In fact, if anything, they've been innovating more. So they're just so impressive, and they're a brand that I love to work with, and I include in my smart home as well. So they're great.
Nice. Absolutely. So let's go and talk. I want to hear you talk a little bit about some of the PR front of things, what that kind of world is like, working with these smart home brands. And then we got enough time. I got a couple hands-on that we can walk through. So tell me more about your world and what might people not know necessarily about the PR side of things and working with smart home brands.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for asking. I think it's, I didn't go to high school and think like, oh, I want to be a PR person. I didn't even know what PR really was until I was older and, made an effort to understand what PR was. And then even then, I'm not quite sure I knew what I was getting into because I can tell you every day, every week, there's something new that I'm doing that they don't teach you, if you go to college for comms or PR or marketing or whatnot. I think the ultimate goal of a PR person, or I should say a PR team, is to be extremely trusted by both media and their clients, so their brands. Um, it puts you in this, you used the term middleman position before, right? It puts you in this middleman position where media are coming to you for things that they don't feel comfortable going to brands for, or brands don't feel comfortable communicating with media. And the PR person is kind of able to interpret and share in a way that is beneficial for both parties. Brands come to media, to PR people, myself or my team, other agencies, other people in the industry, because they trust us to get things done. And sometimes it has nothing to do with media. They'll come to me with an event that they need a plan, or they come to me that has nothing to do with media, like not a media event, a consumer event. They'll come to me if they, there was a brand that I work with that several months ago, their warehouse in the U.S. that stored all their products before they were shipped. I guess they weren't paying their rent or whatever, and their landlord just shut them down. They were done, and they couldn't. They locked the doors, everything, and all this brand's products were all still in there. They couldn't figure out how to get them out. They needed another warehouse. They needed to figure out a manufacturer or shipper that a shipping company that works with that warehouse, because there's specific shipping companies that can work with specific warehouses. This was all happening in real time, right ahead of the holidays, like their biggest season of the year, and they had no idea what to do. And we sometimes can provide help like that because when you work at an agency, you have so many brands that you work with and so many partners that all of a sudden, one experience with one brand can be applicable to another brand. And so that's, they trust us to come to us with that information and with that problem, not because they want us to tell the media about it or to, put out a press release, which is what I think a lot of people think PR is, but to help them troubleshoot in real time and make an effort to get something fixed. And that's just one example, but I'm telling you, like every week it's something different. I'm lucky enough to do PR for companies that I'm passionate about, an industry that I'm passionate about, right? My agency gives me the agency to work with companies that I love. Smart home is my favorite category. I'm a huge Apple fanboy. I mean, you can see my book collection over here, and can't see my wall, but it's all Apple posters and my first Apple Share certificate I've got over there. So I mean, I love this space and I love this category, and my company lets me work with these types of companies and brands that make me want to wake up and do this every single day for the rest of my life. Excuse me, I'm getting a little emotional. It's so exciting. Uh, but yeah, PR is it's different. If you're a good writer, if you don't necessarily want to go into product development or software engineering or anything like that, software development, but you love tech and you love telling stories, I would say tech PR, something like I do, is a really good career and a really good way to to make a life.
And you're going to be very busy going into next year, I am sure. We got huge Matter news, and I mean, tangentially related to the show, like Qi 2 news, and like so much stuff is kind of launching next year. It's going to be a wild year for the smart home space. So I'm pretty
It's going to be pretty
excited, but
crazy.
I'm sure you got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of that at CES. I think smart home is going to be very talked about and covered at CES, and not just your traditional, I guess, smart home devices, but kind of like the outskirts of smart energy, right? How you can channel solar or battery backup and use that in your house. I think a lot of people are kind of fed up with energy companies right now and the the high prices, but also the kind of lack of control that homeowners have over whether they have energy access or not. In times, mostly in times of crisis, it's actually the reason energy companies get such a bad rap is because the times where things go bad, it's like the worst moment that that thing can happen, right? Uh, I used to work with a company that was kind of like an AirTag, right? Like it was like the precursor to AirTags, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a huge problem that their customer satisfaction, not with their product but with their brand, was like in the toilet. Because if you think about it, anytime that product is needed, right, you need to find something. It's a crisis. It's a moment of crisis in your day when you're trying to get your kids to school and you can't find your keys, or you are checking out at the register and you can't find your wallet. Like these are moments of crisis where you're thinking about that brand, and so your brand association is terrible. I think energy companies are kind of in the same place right now, right? Your power goes out. You've got something on the stove, or something in the fridge or refrigerator or freezer, and it's going to go bad, and that's where your brand association kind of goes. And so I think customers want to take that control back into their hands, and companies in the smart home space are going to try to make that happen, and you'll see a lot of that at CES. And then just expanding beyond the inside of the smart home, right? What can we do with smart property, I guess we should say, or smart outdoors a little bit more. Whether that's mowing the lawn, maybe you'll see something like that from some brands I represent, or how you can capture solar energy in one place and bring it with you to another brand I represent that's going to be there. It's going to be talking about stuff like that. So a lot of cool stuff happening for sure in 24. But you mentioned G two, and I think that could be a good transition to what we want to talk about next.
It is. I think it is a very good transition because we were talking about a couple MagSafe chargers. So I did a whole dedicated video on these guys, um, breaking down their new chargers. So these are still all MagSafe, but they do one thing that is a little bit different that you don't see a lot from MagSafe chargers. So these are from ESR, which we've covered many times, and they had kind of three products that I was showing off in the video. The first is a car charger, so it's their Apple certified car charger, 15 watts of power. Then we have their 3-in-1 charger, MagSafe, wireless charging, your Apple Watch fast charge. Then my favorite one, because there's nothing like this on the market. It's just a beast. GaN technology built in to MagSafe. So MagSafe 15 watt, Apple Watch fast charge, AirPods, Qi charger, and then 3 USB output, 2 USB-C, and a USB-A. This block here is where the GaN technology is sitting, so you can just plug in a single power cord and power 6 devices up at once
Wow.
with these. Really cool to see that output of power on a device
Yeah.
like this. But they also do, which is so cool, active cooling on their charging pucks, and that even works in the car, which is probably like the biggest one in my opinion, because I always have. I don't know where you're located, Dan, but like half the year here or a quarter of the year here, it gets ridiculously hot, and it seems like every time you put your car in the or your phone in the car to charge, it's like, sorry, I'm overheating and I can't help you, and
Yeah.
you gotta like put it in front of like the AC vent or something to cool it down, or you just got like the sun hitting it from the back. But to have like an actual fan basically blowing on the back of your iPhone is such a game changer for these things. And if you're using your phone, so if you're just putting on here passively charging, probably not a huge difference in terms of overall charging performance. But if you were trying to use your phone at the same time, whether you're watching a video, you have something up, or you're doing something while you are trying to charge, these can definitely increase your charging time, which I find very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm based in Florida, so I definitely get that experience all the time. It's quite. I pick up. I'm not such a case person with my iPhone, so when I put my phone on the MagSafe charger, you can feel that heat for a little bit, and it's quite warm. Like it really hits you, and it's I would say even dangerous. So that fan tech is really awesome, and even outside of your car, right in your home with the fan in Florida, that's much needed. It's a great feature.
The one thing I will say that I don't love is there is like a light that goes on behind, and it's like a light blue light, and there is a button on here like turn it off. I have heard a couple people say that theirs didn't turn off when they press the buttons. I have not experienced that. It seems to just turn off fine. But like I don't need the lights. I'm not one of those like light up everything with RGB type of folks. So I don't need like a light behind my charger. I'm fine with it just being off. The other thing that my lights are just going to turn off while we're recording.
Tell me you're recording a smart home podcast without telling me you're recording a smart home podcast.
Right. The other thing is the fans and how loud they are. I would say they are audible in a quiet room, but I never noticed them. Like we have one in the kitchen, and I've never noticed those fans being on. I've never noticed it being on in the car. If this was bedside and you sleep in like the silence of a desert, then maybe you will notice the whirling of the fan, but it's not particularly loud.
Light, yeah.
It's like it's audible, but it's not anything that like it never bothered me, and I didn't think about it at all until someone mentioned it.
And that's probably good for your sleep, if anything.
Exactly. You should just be their PR person now. ESR.
Well, fun fact, and I didn't know you were pulling out an ESR one, but they are a Max Purchase Agency client. So
well, there you go. See, there you go. Oh, well, very fun. So yeah, I really like these new ones are pretty sweet. I don't need the light, but other than that, I've never seen another MagSafe charger that had like the USB outputs. From my understanding on Apple's MFI spec, like there are harsh limits on like USB outputs at the same time, just because of how everything kind of has to work together and the power requirements and stuff. So no one does it. And then ESR comes out with this one that I was pretty happy about. So I think these are pretty cool. And there's, again, whole video up on the channel if anyone wants to check it out. And yeah, I'll have it linked in the show notes.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to cover, Dan, before we wrap it up for this episode?
I think that was it. This was really fun. I hope I can come back. I realized my E-flare turned off in the middle of our talk, though, because I was matching your blue E-flare in the back there, but somehow mine turned off. I guess maybe my kids unplugged it or something and the battery ran out, but it's yeah, that's a fun little Easter egg for you viewers watching this one.
Find when the flare turned off or something throughout the show.
Okay, first audience member, I'm going to make this claim here. First audience member to tell me at what point the light went off, the E-flare went off in my background. Respond in the comments with the time, and then I will reach out to you and send you a free E-flare on behalf of Eve.
Where do you want them to throw it up? Do you want them to tag you on Twitter, or do you want to do it in YouTube show notes? Because you can't really comment on the podcast, so it's either got to be on the YouTube video or on Twitter.
All right, let's do it in YouTube, and if that's not okay, if I'm not responding fast enough, hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at Daniel J Turk or DanielTurk.j. I don't know, one of those there, but you'll find me. It says I work for Max Purchase Agency and do PR for cool tech companies there. So reach out to me, tell me what time. First person I see to reach out to me, I will send you a free E-flare on behalf of Eve.
That is amazing. If you guys don't know, it's youtube.com/HomeKit Insider, where you can watch this episode of the show. Of course, we're up on all your major podcast platforms where we appreciate a 5-star review. I'll link Dan's Twitter handle, X handle, whatever you want to call it, in the show notes too. Thank you, Dan. It's been for anyone who follows my Twitter and stuff. It's been a rough week. We lost my grandfather this week.
It was really sorry, hard, Andrew.
And he's he was big into the smart home stuff with me, and literally, the day before he passed, I was going over install plans for permanent outdoor lights that were controllable through Matter and stuff. And he's like, okay, but how are we going to do this? And how far should we, literally all these technical things. And he was so excited about it. And it's been rough. So I'm glad that we could have a good podcast episode, lots of stuff to talk about. And
I'm so sorry, Andrew, but
you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. And I hope what you do and what you continue to do is a continuing legacy for your relationship with your grandfather and the impact he made on your life. And I'm sure he's looking down right now at you and is just really happy to see that you're doing what you love and what he loved to talk about with you. Only good things moving forward, bud.
Thanks, man. Okay, we got emotional at the end, but let's wrap it up. Got another fun episode for you guys next week. And see you guys soon, and we'll have lots of stuff to talk about. So,
enjoy the holidays with your family, Andrew.
Listening. Absolutely. You too, Dan.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys. Bye.